eggs, she'd gone on a rampage and nearly destroyed the place she called home, Ash Research. She looked around the airplane hangar, realizing her men were pretending to work. They were not. They were studying her and wondering if she'd flip again, knocking over shelves and damaging the planes and equipment. She wouldn't. The company was all Trin had left. She just had to learn to control her temper. Not easy to do when her emotional control center was mostly wires, much like her hair. Slapping the metal door shut on her chest, Trin buttoned up her blouse and began retying the corset around her midsection. Some might think she was dressed for a strange Renaissance fair. The truth was that, much like her men, she was covered in a corset and had leather straps around her legs, chest, and arms to hold in hardware that never should have been there in the first place. "Any changes to the eggs?" Trin asked the scientist. Drake had worked with that Reinhardt, so she figured he might also be a resource on the dragons, although he was proving to volunteer very little information. "No dragons have hatched yet, if that's what you mean," he told her, looking around the hangar and watching the cyborg men as they loaded a plane for a contract job. Trin sighed. "How can we speed up the process?" He shook his head. "I don't think you can, and even if you could, there's no way to tell if the 13 eggs you got are going to be right. They might all be angels." Angels versus demons. According to what she'd learned, dragons were born two specific ways, always. Some were born angels, like the ones who formed the Dragon Elite. The others were born demons. Good and bad. That's how the world was made up. It was no different for dragons. It was still strange a dragon was predisposed to a certain affiliation. It wasn't a nature versus nurture situation, but there had been a reason. When Michael the Archangel's blood infiltrated the earth, soaking into the dragon eggs, according to the legend, other blood was spilled at the same time by the demon Nergal. Half the eggs absorbed the angel's blood, and the other half, the blood of the demon. Those who had read the incomplete history of dragon riders knew about the angel blood. It wasn't until Trin had gotten access to a different text she learned the full history. Everything in the world was about balance. While the Dragon Elite was created to protect the earth and rule over the affairs of mortals, they couldn't exist without an evil counterpart. It was only after Trin had stolen the single dragon egg that she'd learned she'd need at least two, the blood of an angel and a demon. She now had 13 eggs. One of them had to be an angel and the other a demon, she reasoned. She wouldn't know for certain until they hatched, and that apparently took an indeterminable amount of time. "There's something I've heard of that you can try to speed up the hatching time," Drake offered, combing his hands through his long white beard. "I don't know if it will work." Trin narrowed her eyes at him. "What is it?" "You aren't going to like it," he said, a bit of amusement in his voice. She nodded. "That's the status quo at this point." Drake pointed to one of the planes getting ready for a mission. "The good news is you've got what you need to make it happen." She made a silent promise to herself. Drake would die. By her hands. But not until she didn't need him anymore. She opened her hand, the metal joints making a mechanical sound as she combed her fingers forward at the man. "Tell me what I have to do." Chapter 2. Sophia Beaufont knew it was still dark before she opened her eyes. She pressed her lids together more firmly and tried to will herself back to sleep. It was no use, and from recent experience, she knew it. She cracked open her eyes in the large bedroom in the castle to find she was in fact correct. It was still dark outside the Gullington. She knew what time it was. A cold laugh fell out of her mouth when she looked at the clock. 3:33 a.m. Every single morning recently, Sophia had awoken at the same time. She had no idea what the significance was, but Sophia thought it had to be of importance somehow. Swinging her covers off, she rolled out of bed and stretched to an upright position. The flames of the candles and the torches and fireplace